People said she was rude. People said she was cold. Before you judge her, listen to the voicemail she keeps replaying and stay to the end. In a rainy Seattle morning, the bell of a small coffee shop chimed without rest. Emily tied her apron, tucked a worn photo into her pocket, and forced a smile. The watch on her wrist had stopped at 3:17, and she never fixed it. A cheerful man ordered a latte extra hot and rolled his eyes when she missed his joke. His friend whispered that someone woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Emily pretended not to hear and pushed the next cup across the counter. Her phone buzzed with an email from the manager that said 2 more complaints, and she would lose the weekend shift. Rent was due, and the weekend shift paid extra. She slid the phone into the drawer with a small paper bag of medicine. Mrs. Parker came in with her umbrella dripping and a scarf wrapped tight. She leaned in and said, "Rough day, honey." Emily nodded and said, "I am fine," and then looked away. At noon, the line grew long and a teenager counted coins with shaking hands. Emily said, "Give me what you have," and slid the cup to him anyway. He looked up as if someone had just handed him air. Jordan, the new delivery guy, arrived late with rain on his hoodie and a grin that tried to help. He asked, "Are you okay?" And she said, "I will be," and kept moving. He noticed the stopped watch and did not ask why. A man in a suit rushed in and bumped a table, and a latte spilled across a laptop. Voices rose and the phone came out for recording. The man snapped that the service here is a joke and that she did not even say sorry. Emily felt the heat crawl up her neck, and the room narrowed to a point. She could already see the complaint turning into the end of her shift and maybe the end of her job. She opened her mouth and then closed it. Jordan stepped between them and said, "Let us fix the mess first and talk after." He handed the guest a stack of towels and offered a free replacement. The guest hesitated and took the towels without another word. The manager walked out from the back and looked ready to scold. Emily stood straight and said, "It was my counter and I will make it right." The manager paused and said, "Then make it right," and went back inside. Emily brewed a fresh cup and set it down with a steady hand. She said, "I am sorry your day is hard, and I hope this helps a little." The man stared at the cup and the anger left his face like steam slipping into air. The rush faded, and the shop grew quiet again. Jordan wiped the table and said, "Some days are heavy and do not show on the face." Emily let out a breath she had been holding all winter. He said, "I lost my mom last year, and I am still learning how to breathe." She touched the stopped watch and said, "My dad left a few months ago and I keep hearing his last message." Jordan nodded and said, "I bet he said something worth keeping." She opened her phone and pressed play with her thumb shaking. A soft voice filled the space saying, "Kiddo, be kind to yourself and to others since everyone is fighting something." Emily closed her eyes and finally let the words land. Mrs. Parker returned in the afternoon for her second tea of the day. She slipped a small note across the counter that read, "Thank you for the way you treated that boy with the coins." Emily folded the note and felt the paper steady her like a hand on the shoulder. Evening came with a final wave of orders, and a woman with a stroller stood in line. The baby cried and the woman kept bouncing and whispering, "Please, please, just a minute more." Emily stepped out from behind the counter and rocked the stroller while the woman paid. When closing time arrived, the man in the suit came back with a dry laptop and eyes that would not meet hers. He said, "I was out of line and I am sorry for making it harder." Emily nodded and said, "We all have days that break at the edges." The manager counted the till and looked up for a long moment. He said, "I saw how you handled the floor and the guests, and I will keep you on the weekend schedule." Emily said thank you and tucked the paper note into the drawer beside the medicine. Jordan stacked milk crates by the door and asked, "What are you going to do with the watch?" She smiled and said, "I will let it keep that time for a while to remind me where kindness began." He laughed and said, "That sounds like a good clock to live by." Be kind because everyone is fighting their own battles. You cannot see the weight someone carries, but you can make it lighter for a moment. Sometimes that moment is the difference between breaking and breathing. If this story found you today, pass one small kindness forward before the night ends. And if it moved you, subscribe to this channel so we can keep telling the stories that help us see one another clearly.